What is the difference do you see in the industry 30 years back and 30 years now?
Technology is really the biggest thing. It's the easiest answer. I really think it's all about resident experience now. People to people interaction, like, is a lost art.
Got it. No, I think this is absolutely bang on.
You said the term listen,
Yeah.
and that is the key in communication. Say, hey, why don't you take a deep breath before you talk and listen? Like, that was one of the best leadership advices I ever got.
Thanks for being so candid.
Oh, wow, that's a great question. And it's an easy answer.
Hello, everyone. I wanted to welcome you all to the brand new episode of The Blueprint. The Blueprint is that one place where you get all the conversations from student housing leaders, totally unfiltered, raw, and unscripted. Today, we have none other than Jason Ford from Asset Living. Why I'm saying it so loudly? Because his name is enough. This guy has spent 30 years in the industry. Anybody who is entering into the student housing know his name. Anybody who is planning to, I would highly recommend go and check out what he writes on LinkedIn. And if you get a chance, and I'm not sure I can spill the beans, but he stays in Texas, go pick his brains there, and you'll be able to get the most out of your career there. Jason, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me on Blueprint. I'm super excited, and for anybody that's crossed paths with me, unfiltered discussions is what I like to have, and I'm excited I get to share that with you today.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you so much. Typically, when we start, and this is something that I'm asking out of my curiosity, people who have spent so much time in the industry, what is interesting is the industry has changed a lot, right? So probably something that used to work or something that used to be recommended 25, 30 years ago, maybe a few things would have changed. So if I had to ask you that, what is the difference do you see in the industry 30 years back and 30 years now? How has that changed? What are the things that you find probably easy now, were challenging earlier, and easy then and challenging now? I don't know. How
Uh,
about you?
It's
Spill some
it's
beans.
such a good question, but technology is really the biggest thing. It's the easiest answer. But I can remember when I started with Asset Living, we would literally wait for leases to be mailed to us. Like, in the mail from the post office, leases would get mailed to us. And if we needed them real quick, they would be faxed to us. Nobody knows what the hell a fax machine is anymore. But so the mail and the fax machine were like the two bright spots of the day. And I can remember when this whole online leasing thing came over, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so worried about it. Like, I'm such a people-centric person. This is going to take the customer service away. This is a horrible idea. It's never going to work. God, I couldn't have been more wrong. Like, adapting to technology and really taking it in and accepting that, hey, it's gonna make everyone's job easier. It's gonna make us more efficient, more effective. Like, just that. I mean, take for instance, 22 years ago, I'm going to the mail and I'm getting excited because I had 10 letters that have leases.
Yeah.
And now, as our general managers are going to their inbox and they're like, "Oh, we got 10 leases last night at 2 o'clock in the morning because the students did." I mean, it's just amazing where we've gone in the last 2 decades. And that's just a little small thing, right? Like, think about the technology that your firm does and so many other vendors that really weren't around when, like, student housing wasn't a thing, right?
No,
So
yeah.
just the evolution of technology, vendors that have made our customer service, like, go to another level is what was the most eye-opening to me. But the one thing that hasn't changed is, like, this is a people-centric business, and if you dominate connecting with people and building trust, like, using all the technology that we have, but if you still have that people side, you're still gonna win every time.
So I think these are the golden words. everybody should remember. And I always love that, whether I've been to Interface, whether it's NMHC, whether it's any other LeaseCon, TurnCon, whenever I've seen you speaking, you emphasize so much on the people centric part. And I don't think so it can be any more real than that. Because what happens is, yes, we design technology. Yes, we can have multiple lead points or not multiple touch points, but we have to still understand at the end of the day, it's a very human to human interaction. You can put technology to probably enable you, but you cannot take that piece out of it. That Because at the end of the day, somebody has to stay in a home away from home. That's all that matters. So that's a very brilliant point. And that actually takes me to the next point, which is like, what does student centricity mean for asset? So, I mean, I know every company design, some companies think that, okay, we will bring more amenities to our properties. Some companies think about probably new technology applications, apps for our students. But asset has been in the business longer than most have even dreamt of, right? You probably manage the largest number of the beds that are there. What do you think asset speciality is when it comes to student housing?
Yeah, I really think it's all about resident experience now, because when you look across the student housing landscape, everyone has a resort style pool, everyone has a gym, everyone has a study room. Like, the amenity wars are kind of over. Like, everybody has those. Like,
Yep.
what separates one management company from the next is really building resident experience. So these students can go on Instagram or TikTok and they can post what they're doing at your facility. So then another person can look at that facility and go, oh, I'm going to be part of that. I have to live there next year because that event or that staff or that vibe or that brand is really what I'm about, and I wanna go live there. And I think the one thing that student housing in general kinda lost, ever since COVID to today, we went through this period for 3 years where leasing was really easy, and rental rates were going up 10% and occupancies, and people got lazy because they didn't have to work. And now, like, multifamily has gotten smart. Like, we have
Yeah.
500,000 multifamily units, and our multifamily teams are stealing people out of purpose-built student housing because they had
Yeah.
cheaper rates,
Yeah.
because their amenities and their brand was still really good, but the students and the parents were like, "You're not raising rents on me 15%. I'm not taking that anymore. I'm gonna go live down the street, and I'm gonna have the same experience." And what we've learned at Asset Living is we have to get back to the basics, and we have to make sure the resident experience is first class, customer service is first class, and the resident knows it's about them. I mean, it's a small part of when a resident walks in the office, they're getting a package. Do you know their name? Are you asking how their day is? Are you seeing what's going on? Are you building trust? Like, that's what a student really wants. And I think I see that in my daily interactions. Like, I go get a cup of coffee at Starbucks, and if the person's super nice to me, like, it makes a difference in my day. And the same thing if I'm going shopping or if I'm at an event or whatever, like, people to people interaction,
Yeah.
like, is a lost art. Like, I don't know how many times I go on a college campus and people have their AirPods in and they're not talking to anyone. But the next generation, like, the difference between my 22-year-old and my 12-year-old is very different. Like, my 12-year-old is very interactive with their friends, and you don't see the amount of, like, isolation. Like, with my oldest daughter, like, the COVID generation, they're kinda isolated, they're kinda have their AirPods in, they're not as outgoing, they're a little more scared. But the next generation coming up is not that way, so building resident experience is huge going forward. And really just
Yeah.
getting back to the basics of customer service is really, really key.
I think this is a very interesting point. Two of the points that you touched upon are really eye-opening for me. One is the difference of how well you have actually portrayed the difference between Gen Z and Gen Alpha. I mean, the next generation that is coming. And
Yeah.
second thing is the student experience. So let me take it piece by piece. The student experience part. So, I mean, in a lot of conferences when I have seen you speaking, and in our personal interaction also when we were speaking, when we met in Austin, I remember you speaking something to the effect of, you guys have a special playbook for your student experience at the communities. People who are talking to students day in, day out, the student building manager, the community manager, the leasing manager, you guys work really, really hard in making sure that they continue your legacy in terms of the experience. Can you throw some light on that? How does that change from a typical student housing to asset? What changes there?
Yeah, I think I'm going to start on a bigger point that's really hitting our younger generation is mental health.
Yep.
Like, this generation struggles so much with depression and suicide and being isolated that our student housing on-site leaders really have to go the extra mile because they don't know how big of a difference they could play in an 18 to 22-year-old's life that's really struggling at a bad time because they're away from home or they're struggling at school, they have financial or boyfriend girlfriend problems. Like, those are key. Like, how do you interact with those people to really make a difference in their life? Like,
Yeah.
at Asset, we really want to make sure that every interaction with our students is memorable. And again, that could just be with a package or a maintenance request or stuff like that. But it goes bigger to, hey, maybe they want to work in the office. Maybe, like, I'm glad somebody gave me the opportunity to be in student housing when I was 19 because I don't know what I would do without student housing. I in August of '93, I started as a resident advisor and didn't know anything about student housing. I knew about people, but I didn't know about leadership or anything like that. And somebody gave me a chance. Like, that's the key thing with our on-site people. They can truly make a difference in somebody's life, both positively and negatively. So
Yeah.
you really have to look at the small details that you're doing with your students to really make a difference. And then when it comes about the living experience, I mean, students are very easy if you truly just listen to them. Like, if there's something broke in their apartment, just fix it in a timely manner and communicate. Like, if the parts coming in, it's gonna be 3 days and you tell a student that, they totally get it. But when you don't communicate and don't let them know what's going on, then that one thing becomes 5 or 6 other things, and
Yeah.
all of a sudden, they hate asset living, they hate the place that they're living, and they hate life, right? Like, people can blow stuff out of proportion really quick. Like,
Yeah.
18 to 22-year-olds are really good about blowing stuff out of proportion. So you have to really, really focus on the small customer service pieces and communication pieces that really make a difference.
Got it. No, I think this is absolutely bang on. Uh, Communication is a part where we are seriously, seriously probably slipping away when it comes to Gen Z. I also believe, just like you, I believe that there's a notion that Gen Z doesn't want to talk or Gen Z doesn't want to understand. They don't want to reason with. But I believe it's just simple communication. Yes, some people would never understand, and that is not very typical to any student. That is typical to any customer experience industry. But making sure that communication is bang on, timely communicated, timely spoken to, timely relayed on, that thing really, really resonates with it. In fact, in Amber as well, our experience, wherever certain properties are highly rated or certain managements get more traffic, it's mostly because previous students have recommended them that, hey, this building's experience is good. Not only the amenities, but they listen to you. They're very friendly. They're very understanding. So yeah, that matters. But
You
what about
you
this?
just used the term that most people forget the most. You said the term "listen,"
Yeah,
and that is the key in communication. And I think
that's true.
as management operators, what we truly have to do is listen to our residents. Like,
True.
how many times are we surveying our residents what they want in a community? Like, I work with developers all the time.
Yeah,
And they said, "Hey, Jason, what should we do? What should we put here? What do you think's going on?" And I'm like, I'm 51 years old. I don't know what an 18 to 22-year-old in this generation truly wants, like when we're going to do a CapEx. But why don't we just ask them 4 or 5 questions what they want? And then when a new owner buys the property and they immediately see the upgrades, the student's like, "Oh, they just listened to what I my suggestion. They made it. It wasn't that big of a deal." But now the resident goes, "Oh, I'm gonna renew here again because this ownership group truly listens to me," right? And to me, he who listens controls the conversation, right? And controls the narrative moving forward. But I used to, in my mid-30s, I used to have a big problem with listening. Like I would be on a call with an owner would say something that I disagreed with or I thought was wrong, and, like, I couldn't wait to tell the owner why they were wrong. It was a horrible trait that I had, and, like, when I did that, I stopped listening to what they were truly saying and totally missed the conversation, so, because I wanted to prove the owner wrong, I quit listening, I argued with them, I didn't hear their true point, and then the owner didn't like me, like, what was I doing? Like, but the ability for someone to slap me in the face and say, "Hey, why don't you take a deep breath before you talk and listen?" Like, that was one of the best leadership advices I ever got. It really expanded me to go to the next step in my career because when you listen, you truly understand what the problem is. And usually the problem is not rocket science. I mean, we work in student housing and thank God I'm not trying to cure cancer because I couldn't do that. But I can make a resident happy if I truly listen, right?
Truly listen. Yeah. I think this is this I so love that. First of all, thanks for being so candid. A lot of people don't get it, but I have been guilty of committing this mistake so many times where I feel that, hey, I know everything. Let me just explain to you. But the point is, if we just pause, and I know it's really hard, it's easier said than done, but that pause is very, very important. And I keep telling, we internally have a lot of workshops, and I keep telling my team as well, I have never ever lost business or a good friendship or a good relationship if I have paused. It's only in the times when I've tried to act smarter. I have been, I have had the worst of my times. And you can keep on trying. Nobody's perfect, but you saying that out loud, I'm sure will give confidence to so many people. Hey, how about we take a pause? How about we
Yeah.
just
That
introspect?
pause is so key. Like, pause, take a deep breath, think about what you're gonna say, and then say it. And usually don't say something stupid. Usually say something that's very insightful because you truly listened to what the other person was saying. And you know what? It's not just business.
Yeah.
Like, when I take a pause and listen to my wife, we don't get in arguments. When I pause and take a listen to my daughters,
Yeah.
we don't get in a fight. Like, we don't disagree because you truly think about what the other person says. Like, sometimes we're so quick to get a point across, we don't really think about what we're saying.
I think this is a very key for our next segue as well, because whenever I go to whenever I visit states, I make sure that I make a point to visit all the communities. At least I try to. So I go to, say, UT Austin, then I try to go most communities in 5 mile radius and visit students and talk to them. And I figured out, Jason, that there are certain communities that are actually inhabited by students, not because they like the building so much, but because they like the brand. So, and this is something that is a very understated fact, in most of the times when we talk to marketing, when we talk to marketing in our partners, everybody says, no, people believe in properties in United States and brand comes second. And I have a very, very firm belief that is the brand that the Gen Z goes with. And we are understating that fact. Like, people go to certain properties because they are managed by asset. If I suddenly start a company tomorrow, people will not just come to it because they like that building. It's that brand and that legacy. Can you throw some light on that? How do you actually navigate the changes of so many years and still connect with these guys? How do you still do that?
Yeah, I mean the brand is huge, right? Like a brand is everything nowadays to these 18 to 22-year-olds. They're all about the brand, and the brand makes them feel elevated. It makes them feel special. The brand knows that they're not just a number, that they're really important to that brand. Like,
Yeah.
and building that brand is not easy. Like, you got to live it every day. You got to do it on social media. You got to really portray the lifestyle that they're going to get. But brand is everything. I mean, look around at like what Apple's done as a brand. Like, and you can go to any other successful company if you look like a Stanley or something like that, like,
Yeah.
their brand is, like, huge. Like, I'm walking through Academy yesterday with my youngest daughter, and we're getting my grandfather a gift, and, like, there's Stanley cups in every color and every size and stuff like that, but what they built as a brand and as a lifestyle is just incredible, and it's no different on the student housing side. Like, the kids wanna have something that nobody else has, and there's some company like we work with a developer, 908 Development, and their brand is always first class. And we work with another developer, Gilbane, and they start their brand like
Yeah.
2 years before, and like just the vibe and everything that goes into it is first class. And it's so important, especially in a new development, because nobody knows about your brand. Like, you really get it out there earlier and get people into it, but brand is huge nowadays, really, really huge.
No, that is so rightly said. It's people, though Gen Z doesn't want anything loud, but they do like things that resonate with a certain characteristic. So they would love to associate you. If it's Apple, it's privacy. If it's Starbucks, it's probably convenience. If they're looking
Yep.
for IKEA, it's options and everything. Now, tell me something, Jason. Can you give me any one or two best practices followed by your community managers at the building? Is it the kind of kids that they make that the kids love a lot, or is it something that they do some activity? How do they actually make the first international or even the domestic kids coming into the building welcome? What is that first thought that has been trained for them that actually helps them connect with the Gen Z right away?
Yeah, I think, and I'll use this slogan and this brand a lot: execute the basics daily. Like, a lot of people forget about the basics, like customer service and communication and trust. Like, establishing those every day and doing those consistently every day is super important. Again, I said it a minute ago, we're not in an industry that you have to overthink things.
Yeah.
Like, if you execute 5 basics daily, you're going to win every day. Like, if you go out and you execute your brand on social media and you really promote that, people are going to come there. If you treat your residents with respect and communicate with them, that's going to resonate with them. If your residents have a problem and you can solve their problem, like, that resonates with them. And if you execute those basics daily, you're always going to make a difference, and you're always going to set yourself apart, because there's a lot of people, like, part of my job, like, I spent the first 25 years of my life in operations, and I operated
Yeah.
properties and stuff like that. In the last 5 years, I'm in business development, so part of my job is to go steal properties from our competitors, and we'll go out and we'll secret shop properties, and just the basics of, you walk into a property and everything's dirty. The model's dirty, the bathrooms are dirty, the outside in the parking lot's dirty. Like, that's laziness.
Yeah.
Like, if you execute the basics to keep your property clean, that makes a difference, because you never get a chance to make a first impression again. And, like, that's a little small thing, right? But, like, when you walk in and it's how somebody's dressed and it's how somebody welcomes you. Are they standing up? Are they talking to you? Like, when you're on a tour, are they engaged with you, or are they on their phone and you could tell
Yeah.
that they don't care? Like, those things are basics, but they make a huge difference, and you would be amazed about the amount of reports I put together that I send to an ownership group. And I'm like, this is happening at your property. You should be embarrassed. Like,
Wow.
you should be embarrassed that your $30 million investment looks like a trash can. Like,
Wow. I think
and
it's
those,
only
those
you
are
can say
basics.
that.
Basics.
Yeah. No, but I think it's only you, Jason, who can actually. I believe you when you say that you send an email to a property owner saying that, hey, your $30 million investment looks like a trash can. You have always been so, so
No,
straight up.
yeah, but you know what? I have been in operations where I made a surprise visit to one of my properties. The
Okay.
people that I hired, I trained, I mentored, and I went onto the property and my head almost exploded because it was so dirty.
Damn. Damn.
And I don't get mad very often, but little things like that infuriated me because again, it's just laziness of not taking pride in your property. Like that again, we'll go back to the brand question. Like if you truly believe in your brand, your property will never look like a trash can because you believe in what you're doing every day. Like that general manager wakes up, steps on the property and was like, my brand is going to be perfect. It's not
Yes.
going to be treated like I throw it away. Like it's going to be treated like it is like they own the $30 million investment. Like that's the key. Our general managers that want to go to the next step, like when you start thinking that you own your property and you and your life savings is in this property and you're thinking like an owner, that's how you get to the next level. But until you think that way, you're never going to get there. Just it won't happen.
It won't happen. I think this is a very key factor for anybody entering into student housing now. That it's though the industry is simple, as you said, we are not curing cancer, we are not building rockets, but
Yeah.
student experience, customer experience, two simple words, but they mean so much a lot. It is so nuanced when it comes to student experience, especially building brands like Asset. There's a legacy now. Actually, that takes me to the operation part, which you mentioned. I want to ask you two things and a twofold question. The first question is something I have always been curious, Jason, because I have so many war stories from my time when I started my business in sales. Then I moved to operations and I'm still growing. But you have 2 decade career and you spent a lot of it in operations. Tell me one of an interesting story, anything that comes to your mind, where you probably realize that this is the industry for me. I'm not going to change now.
Oh, wow, that's a great question. And it's an easy answer. I
Okay.
remember I was at the Cambridge at College Station. That was the first property I started with at Asset. It's now called the Cambridge Hall, and we actually still manage it 22 years later.
Wow.
But the first time one of my people that worked under me got promoted to corporate, I couldn't have been happier. And like I knew at that point that I was truly making a difference in people's lives. And what I was teaching people was like truly making a difference. Like I couldn't have been happier. Like Joe Goodwin was the guy it happened to, and Joe Goodwin is still with Asset Living today
Yes.
and one of my best friends in the entire world. But he got promoted to like a corporate marketing role and he went on and built a whole department for Asset Living. And like every time I saw him do something, I'm like, man, like I I saw Joe get married. Joe has a little boy. Like stuff like that is motivating and inspiring. And like at that point, I knew this career was for me. At that point, I was kind of still struggling. Like, is this what I want to do? Am I a grown up? Like, I didn't really know. And through the years, I've seen people get promoted and provide for their family and get married and have kids. And like, they're still friends today. Like, I'm in a fantasy football league with 12 people that are all from the Cambridge at College Station
Wow.
in 2005. And we get together every year, we have a draft. And like 6 or 7 of those people are like, I'm like 12 years older than all these people, but they're like my best friends in the world. And like my texts are probably going off because the fantasy football championship was yesterday.
All right.
But like they're all my good buddies and they all have families and stuff like that. And a lot of them are still with Asset and got promoted and started working for me when they were 18. Like that's the coolest feeling in the world. And like when you know that you can make a difference in somebody's life and provide a career for them, like that's when I knew this career was for me. And that's when I started waking up every morning like super fired up to go to work because I knew I could make a difference. And that's really all I ever wanted to do was make a difference. And like I'll tell you a very personal story. 3 months after I started with Asset, I lost my mom to cancer.
Oh,
And
okay.
I told her the last thing I said to her was, I'm going to make you proud and I'm going to make a difference in people's life. I just want you to know that before you pass. And like I feel like I've done I feel like she passed away in November of '04, and I feel like I've really done that since this time. And like when you can make a difference in people's lives, like there's nothing to me that's more fulfilling and rewarding in life than that.
Wow. Of God bless her soul. First of all, stories like this actually make me feel that why I love doing this. And it's not about just for me, it's just not about student housing. It's actually being in a customer facing role where it's not about the money, it's not about the business. It's about when I'm able to connect with someone at that level where they are able to be comfortable sharing that story. First of all, Jason, that's so inspiring. Believe me, I got more than I actually came expecting for. I actually got way more than that. Believe me, this moment in this podcast, it's no more a podcast, it's a conversation that we will always, always, always remember. Thank you so much for sharing that.
You're what,
Yeah.
and you know what the biggest thing is? Like I'm the biggest student housing sunshine pumper there is. Like I love student housing more than anyone, and like
Yeah.
anyone that's out there should invest in student housing, hands down. But like the people aspect of it is like to me the most like getting to talk to you today is super rewarding. Like I love being able to do podcasts and share my story and hear other people's story because like at some point there's a 20-year-old or a 30-year-old that's like
Yep.
struggling for direction and what where they need to go. And if I can say one thing to help them go that way, I'm fired up. Or if that person wants to send me a LinkedIn message or an email and we talk, like I love mentoring people. Like in an hour from now, I have a mentorship call with a person on our HR team. And it's like
Wow.
my favorite, we do it every 2 weeks, and it's like my favorite time of the day because it's like a coaching and mentoring program that our company has. And like I'm all about it. Like I already signed up for next year and I'll sign up for the year after that because like I want to share wisdom that I learned through my career that I wish somebody told me when I was 18, 25, 30, whatever it was. Like people did that for me and invested in me. And I always want to give back. Like that's the key.
I think after listening to this a lot, I'm sure a lot of the people in our company or even wherever we have a massive reach, and I'm sure people will understand this. It's important to grow. It's very important to grow, but at the same time, if you can actually create a platform for the people walking with you, there is nothing more rewarding than that. Yeah, it sounds cheesy, but what people I do not I'm not talking about it from the goodness of the heart or some kind of great deed that you're doing. People understand the kind of confidence it gives you and that a kind of firepower it gives you to build up your own ambitions. It's it's massive. So today, when you are doing so much and you're giving the community back, you're fulfilling the promise that you made to someone. I'm sure every day you wake up, that extra zest that is coming to your steps, that is coming purely out of this. And people underestimate that. Rest everything is fine. I mean, you can always say that, oh, I'm doing that goodness out of my no. But this zest is God given, and that's crazy. Thank you so much for sharing that, Jason. I also
Absolutely.
and that I'm getting greedy about it, and I'm getting so much good stuff.
Let's keep it going. I love this.
All right. So now what's happening is a lot of the times we are hearing technology, AI, and it's a conversation we cannot stop, right? It's a conversation that is not no more in the mindset. It is there in our daily lives. And when you talk about such a massive operational juggernaut that asset is, what are some of the key areas that you think that technology has already stepped in and has done the job for you? And second, where are the areas where you think it should come in, but it has not yet?
Yeah, it's a great question, and probably it's the same answer on both parts.
Okay.
And that probably sounds weird, but like I think we've come so far in a data perspective. Like we have more data than ever, from expenses to rental rates to
Yeah.
trends and stuff like that than we've ever had. But I think we have so far to go with data too, that we can always keep getting better at it. Like data makes people make better decision. It makes asset living makes better decision. It makes our investors make better decisions. The problem becomes with all this legislation that happened in the last couple of years, a lot of the data we had got taken away from us.
Yeah.
And now our data that we have isn't as good as it used to be. We got
Yeah.
a little spoiled about the transparency everybody had, and now that transparency has kind of gone away. So we're still kind of in a learning curve to get there. And then I think on the other side, like how does AI, like AI has taken over the world and I think it's great. It hasn't taken over our industry yet. There's some great vendors out there that are doing some great things. But to me, nobody has mastered how to deal with an 18 to 22-year-old without the people-centric customer service approach. Like AI has made our life easier. It's made us execute better. It's made us better with data, but there's still parts out there that we have to get better at. And I think we're getting better each and every day. There's vendors out there that are doing some amazing things. And I think it's really piloting those programs, testing them out, being honest with the vendors. Hey, this works. This doesn't work. Like, again, we'll go shop properties and people have set up when you call the property that you're talking to AI or you're talking to a chat box, and all the people want to do is talk to a real human being. Like,
Yeah.
that's a disconnect that we have to figure out in this day and age. People want to talk to somebody right now and they don't want to wait. So I think there's still stuff that we have to learn, and there's some incredible people out there in the industry that are doing some amazing things. So it'll come. I think it's just in due time.
Yeah, I think this is true for most part for a lot of industries. Well, yes, AI has come in. People have actually started bringing in a lot of tools, but the data part is still left kind of uncoded in a way where we are still yet to make sense of what kind of data we should actually plug in, what kind of tools are best for getting the best information out. In terms of student housing, Jason, there's a lot of talk that has happened recently about we have like whenever I talk to different partners, whenever I talk to different marketers, everybody says that hey, we do this and this is our specialty. Student experience is common to everyone, but is there any particular framework that you follow at the community and you think that that is why others miss out what asset has, barring
Yes.
the yeah barring what you think usually gets discussed in the conference. I'm getting greedy now. Just give me something that
No, no.
yeah.
I I have a very different take on most at conferences. I think at conferences people are very guarded
Yes.
with what they say,
Yes.
and they tell about 50% of the truth and not the truth. I think what you hear people say on a stage are very filtered and very calculated. Um, I like to pride myself where I'm very unfiltered and probably cuss too
Wow.
much on the stage and probably say too much that I shouldn't say, but I'm passionate about student housing and passionate about operations and people. Like one of the things that really sets our company apart, like when you look at our division president or SVP team, like they've all been there over a decade, which means they went through the tough times of student housing. They went through COVID. They went through the rainbow generation of student housing where everything was butterfly and rainbows. And now we're back to it being tough again. Like
Yeah.
our people know how to operate in all different kind of settings. I don't think every company can say that, right? And then
Yeah.
we've had people that have come all the way up from the ground to the top level. People just don't have that. People don't have that company culture and experience, and that really gives us the ability to recruit, train, mentor the next generation of leaders in student housing. And we have a long, long bench of those that I get fired up every time I go to internal conferences and meet these people. Like there's nothing that fires me up more when we got a 25-year-old or a 35-year-old that's like ready to take over the world. And I was like, those
I
people
bet.
like fire me up. But to me, that's the difference. Again, I talk about people, but like people's the difference in execution and why assets so good at what they do.
I think that would be an understatement if we'll say people is the only different. The way you mentioned, the way the whole culture has been built up, I think that's the secret sauce. The culture, the bench strength that you have, a 25-year-old or a 35-year-old or 45-year-old ready to actually build new divisions and take the assets legacy forward. I think that is what is the secret sauce.
Yeah, like
Just
I
to,
have a very unique perspective because like when I started, we had 4 properties and
wow.
like Julie Bonin built our division. She's the queen of student housing. She's amazing. And I'm the luckiest person ever that I got to mentor under her for so long. But literally, we had 2 regionals and we had Julie. And like, then the next thing I know, we woke up and we had like 30,000 beds and 50,000 beds, 100,000 beds. And now we have 143,000 beds. Like, just seeing that growth and the people that cause that growth, like that kind of stuff's amazing. Technology came the whole way through. Like we have so many different departments now that when we first started, I was like, man, I wish we would have had that when I was on site. That would have been super cool. Um, but like that growth and that foresight of building like a company that is truly like we've been number one in student housing for the last 15 years. I mean, that happened because people like Julie and Ryan and Mike like had a vision to be the biggest and the best. And like having a front row seat and getting to watch that was truly fun.
Yeah. I think that front row seat is really, really, really priceless, especially
Sure.
when you're building an industry like student housing. Because I always tell people before I entered into student housing, I had no idea how vertical this industry, how deep it goes. People really, really do not know how deep this industry goes. You cannot club it as a real estate business. It is not. It is such a vast and massive discipline in itself that you have to have. There's a different kind of marketing that's needed. There's a different kind of customer success that's needed. There's a different kind of business development that needed. And when you said that front row seat, I bet that's priceless.
Yeah.
Actually,
I talked to a client yesterday that's very multifamily in nature and they want to get into student housing.
yeah,
And they said, okay, Jason, like just break down a couple of the differences between multifamily and student. And he goes, are these going to blow my mind? And I said, yeah, they're going to blow your mind. Like, and, and not in a bad way. You're just
yeah,
like, you just have to think about things differently. Like you've done multifamily all your life. So all you think about is units.
yeah,
I've done
yeah.
student housing all my life. All I think about is beds.
Beds.
You go, oh, like, and that was like just number one. And then you go through the differences in the leasing timelines and the way that you treat customers and the high maintenance nature of a student housing student, parent, guarantor, grandparents compared to multifamily. That's just different. And the way you have to attack it different. The expenses are different. So like I do a lot of multifamily every day,
Yeah,
but literally I have to prepare myself when I have that conversation to when I don't prepare myself for student housing because I have so much dumb
You do that
knowledge
in
in
your
my head that
sleep.
I can just spit it out, right? But I truly have to think when I talk multifamily, I have to think out of the other side of my brain because everything I learned in student housing, I got to put at the side and talk multifamily fundamentals. Now, how you execute it is very similar, but how you get from point A to B, multifamily student, are very different.
No, I think that is true. And there are special buildings, especially the ones like Rambler. But do you think they are actually blurring the lines between what they're offering about what that offering used to be between multifamily and student housing? Do you think they are blurring the lines?
I don't. I think LV Collective does an amazing job building a brand. We talked about a brand earlier. They're
Yeah.
probably the top one or two in the industry that build a brand. I mean, David and his team at LV Collective do an amazing job. And funny story, Jonathan Reyes, who's the president over at LV Collective,
Yeah.
uh, I still remember interviewing him when he was 19 years old, and I hired him
Wow.
as a resident advisor, and I couldn't be more proud of him. He is an amazing leader, an amazing visionary for that company. Um, but him and David have done an amazing job building what they have. So are they blurring the lines? No. I think they're taking the resident experience to another level that some people aren't ready to go, like their whole coffee concept and the whole way that they do their clubhouse, and their clubhouse is more of an event and more of a place where people need to be, and, like, most people aren't ready to do that, and LV Collective has done a tremendous job doing that. Their brand is really, really first class.
I think that's what they did. I think it's right to say probably that they learned the best from the student housing and it just amped it up. They just amped it up
100%.
to to a
Yes.
different notch. I think that is a right
Yeah,
right.
it's almost like the difference between going into, like, a Four Seasons hotel
Yeah.
and then going into, like, the Hilton Garden Inn. Like, it's just like, what you're gonna get at the Four Seasons is very different than what you're gonna get at the Hilton Garden Inn, right? And
Yeah.
that's what David and his team at LV Collective are really establishing, a higher level of customer service and experience than what student housing's used to.
Yeah, I think yes, as you rightly said, the differentiation part that they have actually built up, it's actually to a different level. That
Yeah.
also brings me to the part of foresight, which you earlier mentioned about Judy as well. That when you talk about foresight, and I'm asking particularly to you because you've seen a couple of cycles where the customer behavior changed to say what was it before when it was tough, when it was easy, when it was COVID, and when it's tough again. What is that one thing do you think that all of us in student housing are probably getting absolutely wrong about Gen Z? And then again, this twofold question, the reverse. What is that one thing that I think has been done and nailed down pretty right? But I'm very sure there is one thing that you feel still, and I'm sure you can give me that, where we're absolutely missing out about Gen Z.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that we're missing out the most is how important communication and trust is, and really putting the resident first. I think we miss out on that. We have to understand that the customer is the most important thing, and we've missed that the last couple years. I think on the other part, I think as an industry, if we're truly looking at what our competitors are doing, like I mentioned LV Collective earlier, if you look at Subtext or Core Spaces or Landmark
Yeah,
and you look
yeah.
what they're doing at their developments, and you try to learn from it. Like, I truly value when my competitor builds something and does an amazing job. Like, I want to learn from that and I want to ask them questions how they get there and why their thinking is, because when we're challenging each other, we make the industry better. So we're always evolving and always learning. So I think there's some people out there that are really doing that, but again, execute the basics daily, like if we're really putting these 18 to 22-year olds first, regardless of if I have a C class property or I have an A class property,
Yeah.
a student still wants to feel special and needed
Yes.
and
Yes.
important. Like, and I think sometimes we forget that. And it can be the smallest things. It can be breakfast on the go. It can be making sure you have drinks in the office or coffee, or it could be going the extra mile of something in the apartment or somebody's birthday or something that you're remembering. I think putting the resident first is very important, that we never forget about that.
Yeah, I think people have to understand, because you rightly said that people at the conferences are pretty guarded, because I remember you have asked this question
Very
a couple of
guarded.
times, very guarded. And I remember this question was put up to someone that, hey, why do you think students are not responding? And you said, simply pick up the phone. And, and you guys are not picking up the phone. I think that connects to the part of communication pretty well. That whatever mode you decide an email, whether you decide a call, whether you decide a text, that has to be the right communication. That has to be a very transparent communication. You can't sell something to someone they don't want to live in. It's very simple. It's not that they're buying $100 shoe. They're gonna buy an apartment, or they're gonna rent an apartment which they're gonna stay for a year.
Well, and the
Concluding,
key is finding what communication works for what person.
yeah,
Sometimes a person only wants to text or only wants to get an email,
yeah,
but another person would like you to knock on their door and give them a breakfast burrito and hand them a renewal contract, right? Or
yeah.
tell them to do a renewal online. Like, how do you connect with people? And people are so different with their love language, so to speak, on how they communicate. Like, and if you just are only doing text or only doing email and you're like, I don't understand why this is not working. Like, we're all different. We all communicate differently. What, like, one size doesn't fit all, and you think you're only going to lease one way, you're not going to be effective.
I think this is gonna be my punchline. The key to leasing is knowing the love language of students. I think
It's
you got to
true.
do that. It got to do
It's
that.
true. Yeah.
I think this is gonna be one of your. This should be one of your next phrases at any of the conferences you go to. You guys
I'm
are
going to
missing
use
out
it.
on the love. Yeah, you should use that. If you would not, I would use it and tag you there. That I learned this from
Good.
Jason Fort.
I like it. I like it.
Yeah. Actually, Jason, before we go out, I wanted to understand from you something that this is now my personal pet project, where we want to actually create more awareness about the industry. We want to actually create more opportunities for people who are coming after us, right? So, what would be one recommendation from your side to anybody who is thinking about student housing as a career? What is that one recommendation you will have for them?
Yeah, the biggest thing would be find a mentor, somebody that you can learn from, somebody that you can ask questions to, somebody that you can be vulnerable with, somebody that'll call you out if you're not living up to your
Yeah.
standards and your ethics and your core values. Like, having a mentor that you can learn from would be the most important. And how do you go about doing that? You ask, you build, you communicate with people, you're at conferences, you're on LinkedIn, you're like, asking questions and stuff like that. There's plenty of people that are willing to help, but you have to be vulnerable and admit, I want to learn, and I need your help. And I think when you get to that point, the you know the sky's the limit when it comes to that. Like, one of my phrases in life is always keep learning. I do a lot of reading, I do a lot of podcasts and stuff like that. I do mainly the podcast when I'm working out in the morning, but I always learn something new every day. I got in a rut where I'd work out, I'd listen to music, and like,
Yeah.
I got bored with it. My workouts suffered, and then I started listening to podcasts, and there's people like Eric Thomas or Inky Johnson or Jocko Willnick, like,
Yeah.
David Goggins. You listen to people like that, you are incapable of having a bad workout because you're listening to somebody spit knowledge into your brain the whole time, and like, that is motivating, and then I can use that through the course of my day. Like, you want to always keep learning. You want to always have a mentor that you can call and ask questions and be vulnerable with. That's the key.
No, I think that is also one of the key things. Find a mentor. I think it's a very, very understated practice, but it
Yes.
works so well if you are, especially, I always say the same thing, and I'm gonna credit you, Alena. There are a couple more people, Erica, who actually took out the time, Ben from ACC.
Yep.
These are the guys. You guys took out the time to actually, whenever I caught up and whenever I wanted to understand more about the industry, you guys have been always open. I think this should be the goal for everyone, that, hey, you cannot do it everything on your own. How about
Yep.
find a mentor? The story that you told about your mom, I would always, always carry it with me. Thank you
I
so much for
appreciate
being
that.
so generous with your knowledge today.
Well, I love being here, and
Same
I'll
here.
always be willing. If you want to do a podcast whenever, I'm all just give me the word and I'll be on. I thoroughly enjoyed.
Thank you so much, Jason. I'm gonna take you up on that offer again when we are coming up with the new series. You will gonna be again our flagship guest there. Thank you so much, Jason.
Sounds great.
Looking forward. See ya. Bye. Bye.